Chaz Smith, we're back. It's the Grit. It is June 8th, 2023.
Feels like January 8th down here. I'll tell you what, down in Southern California where the sun refuses to shine.
June gloom is a real thing.
And May Gray is a real thing.
May Gray, that's right.
Yep. Both of them stacked on top of each other here. Haven't seen the sun. Actually, it came out yesterday for a little bit. As soon as it came out, I was like my young Oregonian self. I ripped my shirt off and found a little corner and just sat in it and soaked up that vitamin D, but not before applying a healthy layer of Sunbum.
Smart man.
I was smart.
Remember when we used to have Spy's Happy Lenses protecting us from seasonal affective disorder?
I totally do. Oh,
the good old days.
I was so much happier back then with that happy lens.
Yeah, that's the thing, dude.
Spy should bring that back for this June gloom time, and they would sell a boatload here in Southern California.
They probably still are. I mean, not as much as with our help, but what a concept, right? Like knowing that that is a real thing. People get depressed, and so creating something that boosts that for you in your eyes, like whatever the sun gives you, give that to you through the lens.
I'm just going to steal that technology now that they're not a partner anymore. We can straight up steal it and just do the grit lens. You can see life through a gritty lens.
There you go. Speaking of grit, lots of feedback about last week's episode with us railing on about the WSL and Erik Logan.
Oops.
Well, no oops, to be perfectly honest. I was texting you the next day about it. We were texting, and I'm like, man, did we go too hard? I'm not exactly sure. Like, it's all warranted, but
sure.
But it could get exhausting to sit through for 90 minutes, right?
I don't know that I would want to sit through that for 90 minutes, to be honest.
All the feedback I've gotten was just piling on, actually. It was all like, thank you for saying something, because for some reason, the rest of surf media, Stab, Surfline, whatever else qualifies as surf media, is not commenting on this fiery train wreck of a circus that is happening. And so we appreciate you guys actually just kind of centralizing the conversation, coalescing the conversation, essentially.
The ridiculous to that point, not that we wanted to get into this again or right now, but just specifically with the surf media side, it blows me away. I would imagine Stab and the rest of them, right? Stab, the Inertia, whatever passes for surf media these days. They sit around and they think we are not going to address this, and these guys are just being negative and rude, right? And they're all collaborationists anyway, like they're in bed with the WSL. But to me, it is a real story happening in real time, and not to mention the thing really going off the rails, which, again, to me, proof of it really going off the rails, and we could probably get to this later too, has been in Erik Logan's Instagram silence, and basically Jesse Miley Dyer through 10 days. 10 days, Erik is still silent. Miley Dyer went 10 days before getting back on Instagram, which says to me they either were reamed from the top of like, you guys have become clowns, shush your mouths and let this calm down, or something. There's an awareness that the thing is off the rails.
Or they're just battening down the hatches.
Sure, that too, but but even battening down the hatches, there's an awareness that something is wrong. It's not business as usual.
Well, we will get into some more of that because there are some new things that have come up, but I wanted to start today's show on a totally different note.
Great.
So, a little bit of levity, a little bit of surf history mixed in, but remember when Miguel from Canary Islands messaged about Donovan Frankenreiter riding a waxless board?
Sure do.
I got a lot of feedback about that. And
I got some too.
Real good insights too.
Yeah.
So somebody sent me this email, said, early surfing champion, shaper, and waterman Pete Peterson never used wax. They sent me a link to Wikipedia, which was somewhat good. And then I went to Matt Warshaw's The Encyclopedia of Surfing to learn more about Pete Peterson. And here's what Matt Warshaw had to say. He said, this week marks the anniversary of Pete Peterson winning the 1938 Pacific Coast Surf Riding Championships held at San Onofre. It was a big deal. Tom Blake won it the first year. Whitey Harrison, Dorian Paskowitz, Happy Swartz, Cliff Tucker, all the hot West Coasters turned out for this one. The event was held 9 times between 1928 and 1941. Nobody won more than once except Peterson. the tall, quiet, masterful surfer and paddleboarder from Santa Monica with thin blonde hair, combed back off his forehead perfectly, who walked off with this winner's cup 4 times. And not only that, he did it without ever waxing his surfboard. The man so loved the gleaming multi-coat Valspar finish on his boards, which were meticulously crafted beginning to end by his own hand, that smearing the deck with wax was never going to happen. Quote, "It was a strange affection," photographer Don James later noted, "had something to do with Pete's sense of order. His decks were incredibly slick, but he somehow learned to place his weight very deliberately so that he wouldn't slip off. Pete had the most precise wave positioning around."
See, I feel that that's kind of what I wondered when we brought this up. If you're not moving your feet around, or if you're exactly right, you're not going to slip, right? Slipping is not an automatic thing. You can stand on the ice all day and move across the ice without face planting. It just takes an extra amount of both consideration and care.
Nailed it. So somebody else, and then Miguel, by the way, did email back and sent photos of that trip, including a wave with Donovan just burning him hard.
Oh, sweet.
And he said, he's like, that board, I asked my friend who was on the trip and he validated it, that Donovan rode that first session with no wax. Then the next session applied wax, but like a very, very little amount. And then somebody else reached out and said, there's a product called Grip Light, which is essentially
spray, right?
I think it might be a sticker, like a large kind of decal.
Oh, yeah.
Because I went to their website and you can get it in specific sizes depending on what size board you have. So you apply this decal that stays on your board that has a little grip action in it. Grip Light, the inventor, is in Costa Mesa, and then Donovan's board shaper, Doc, is in Huntington. So we thought there could be a connection between those two, and maybe Donovan was just riding Grip Light. But with all this other information, it seems like maybe Donovan literally was going waxless.
I mean, I had somebody reach out to me as well and say they have done it before, surfed waxless, and that it was, I can't remember the exact context, but they had done it before, and it was fun and fine.
You know what we need to do? We always have the conversation about leash or no leash.
Yeah. Wax or no wax.
Yeah. Purists make the argument for no leash because learning to swim is good. Learning to not fall is good. Learning to not try to take every single wave possible or get as close to somebody who's taking off to wait to see if they miss the wave or not, and then getting in their way. Like all of that gets eliminated when you don't have a leash because you could lose your board and you have to swim. So you're much more discerning. This is the ultimate version of that. If we start promoting no wax, it'll eliminate almost all the kooks from the lineup.
We should promote no wax and bring the segment to the public sponsored by Sticky Bumps. Go waxless.
Yeah, I don't think they'll step up. So I think that covers the waxless debate. That also, though, brought up another topic that I thought could be an interesting recurring theme. Somebody just emailed after that show, and they're like, man, hearing that story of Donovan was hilarious. He goes, it made me think of my own kind of experiencing a pro in the wild where a certain wave gets etched into your memory. So the segment could be pros in the wild.
Oh, it's a great segment. This is a great new segment.
Like listeners call in or write in with a wave that's etched into your memory from a pro in the wild. Did you have an encounter with a professional surfer at your local or on a surf trip? And did they do something insane?
This is great. This is a phenomenal new segment. Because I think we'll run the gamut here between like pros burning somebody or acting badly in the water, pros like being gracious or being, surfing much better than you would have ever imagined them surf, et cetera, et cetera. Like we'll get a wide variety, which is one of the great things about surfing. And I've always thought this is I'm never going to go down shooting hoops at the local and catch LeBron James down there. Right. No. I mean, maybe one of these guys shows up to those New York kind of outdoor things every once in a while. But like if you surf somewhere or anywhere, if you go on a surf trip, the chances of running into a pro and surfing are better almost than not running into a pro.
If you go to a world-class spot or like a famous spot, it's almost guaranteed.
Yeah.
It's funny. Speaking of LeBron, somebody emailed after last week's show with Erik Logan wearing the Felipe Toledo chest tattoo shirt. And they're like, can you imagine David Silver of the NBA getting a tattoo shirt of LeBron's tattoos, wearing it over to LeBron to try to befriend him, posting it on social media? Not only would he be the laughing stock of everyone, it would also show a potential favoritism for LeBron. You know what I mean? Like that just shows that's automatically like a conflict of interest.
Everywhere. Like I wonder truly with Logan's social media silence, if he didn't get talked to by HR, like, hey, this thing has gotten out of control. Like this one was, you put a leash on it, man.
Yeah, well, what I've heard about their HR is that it operates to service the same interests that are making all the bad decisions that we complain about anyways. And so much of what they do and say would not fly in any other corporate HR.
But why has he gone dark?
Yeah, no.
11 days, I think. Let's just look right now. Has Erik Logan returned?
He's probably servicing the basement. He's lowering the bucket as we speak right now with the lotion. That is why you haven't seen him. He gets no reception in the basement. He's got to get like a Wi-Fi extender down there. That is what is happening. Did anybody send you the Instagram account Q Lazarus?
No.
Okay, there's a whole Instagram account. The band name, for listeners who don't know that, for that song is Q, the letter Q, dot Lazarus. So there's an Instagram account that is QCUE_Lazarus, and they take famous dance scenes from various films and just put that music over it.
Oh, and this is so good.
It works for everything.
I'm going to be on Q Lazarus then for the rest of the day.
I'm going to send it to you. It's really, really incredible. Like, Christopher Walken's dance in that Fatboy Slim, like they do it to that. They do it to like everything. It's just really, really good.
I cannot wait. I almost want to wrap the show early just to get on.
I know. So anyways, back to Pros in the Wild. This email came in organically after that last show from TR in Chicago. He said, Dear David and Chaz, I was at a pipeline contest a decade ago. The contest started and a few heats were done. Then the conditions changed. The waves started getting freaking huge. The contest was called off as the usual takeoff spot was completely closing out and second reef was feathering. The WSL said some gibberish over the PA. The Hawaiian Water Patrol breached the jet skis and people started to make overtures to leave. However, a few surfers attempted to paddle out. They were rewarded with humiliating wave poundings, broken boards, and general mayhem. The beach was starting to get cleaned up too. So I hightailed it up the beach to leave. At a slightly higher elevation, I turned back to see a truly frightening set approach. There was one surfer in position, and he was on a bright pink 9-foot foamy. No idea how he made it out. He was going to get killed, no doubt about it. But wait, it's J.O.B., and he swings on a second reef monster, paddles hard, gracefully gets to his feet, textbook bottom turn, and then neatly tucks into the barrel. He got so barreled for so long that the whole beach seemed to hold their breath in unison. Somehow this wave stayed open and was so gnarly. He came out with a spit absolutely flying. No claim, no wobble, no nothing. All style. Then just a perfect kick out, only to paddle back out for more. No score, no horns, no point totals. The guy standing next to me on the beach dune noticed my complete disbelief at what we had just witnessed, and he said, you know what's so rad about that? Is that he did it on an effing foam top. All this hype about board dimension, volume fins, and he's not even in the contest. I never forgot about that one. Jamie O'Brien. Amen, brother. You know when you see it.
That's a great one. Fantastic. Yeah, Jamie is otherworldly, to be honest. I mean, working on the Who is J.O.B. film, the amount of like when, it was just Jamie O'Brien A-clips day after day after day when me and Dayton Lickness were editing it and getting it cleaned up. And like, it's almost numbing. Like the amount of A-plus clips he had is just like, yeah, I mean, I've said it before on here, the whole pipe section in the J.O.B. movie is only pipe. We didn't even have to use a backdoor clip. It is 100% pipe, A-plus pipe clips for however long. I think it's like a 6-minute section or something, which imagine that 6 minutes of just A-plus pipe clips.
It's unreal, dude. Honestly, well, the crazy thing is when I read that note, I think I saw that wave on the webcast.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you remember this. It was a few
I
years
vaguely
ago,
do
like maybe
remember
5
it.
or 6 years ago. And I definitely saw that happen. I don't know if it's the exact same moment that TR is talking about, but it sounds like it was, because they called off the event. And I was very much questioning why they would call off the event, because I mean, but in true WSL fashion, like right when things start to get interesting, they kind of they don't realize that it's actually getting interesting. You
Yeah.
know, like having some heats where the waves are so big and blustery, not even blustery, but just big and challenging that it eliminates half their field is compelling, because
I'm
there will be the John who figures it out. And guess what? He's the best surfer this day. That's what we're here trying to figure out. And so the fact that the WSL does not even recognize that they have the opportunity of a lifetime in front of them, they shut it down. And I was like, what is happening? So either they left the camera on the stagnant angle, or I opened up Surfline to watch the stagnant angle, and I saw that exact thing happen. And I think I might have even talked to Scott Bass about it on air and said, that was better than any ride that we will ever see from the WSL. And it defies all of their criteria, you know?
the great, I mean, what they should do on, I get if they're going to call it off if they think it's too dangerous, or they, can't, the lifeguards say this is difficult to blah de blah. But yeah, if they should leave the announcers in the booth for those kinds of days and say, hey, look at, this is above our surfers' pay grade, right? But those who want to take it, we are going to leave the camera on and we are going to broadcast, with live commentary, what's going on. I don't know why that, I mean, Surfline did that with their 20
Yeah.
foot plus, which is great, I thought, right?
Yeah,
Did you
totally.
like it?
I loved it.
Yeah, it was like sitting and gibbering about surfing, not scores, not, whatever, like, but just actually having surf talk about surfing. We need more of it.
Well, I built this show, kind of the theme of the show, all around following a debate that you brought up last week, which is the Idolo and Griffin conversation really came down to, did style win that day?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And where does style factor into the judging criteria currently? And if it doesn't, then why doesn't it? And all that. So kind of all the listener feedback that I'm going to present and some of the discussion points are all kind of done in that theme. And this first email comes from Ronnie Reyes. And he said, what defines good style in surfing? This also fits with a conversation you and I were having about trying to define a kook.
Yeah, exactly.
Like style has so much to do with that. So anyways, Ronnie Reyes emails and he says, what defines good style in surfing? It's a conversation that is currently a hot topic and filled with many opinions and subjective criticisms. It is a topic as old as the pastime, and most of us identify with a handful of characters that define what good style is. But equally as important, I think, is the subject of what defines bad style. There are so many well-known surfers at the very top level who I just do not enjoy watching. I can't be the only one. I definitely don't think it's cool to bash people, but perhaps the approach can be more methodical. So it's not just about talent, but also mechanics. Can you guys break it all down for more of a scientific way that defines the characteristics and nuances? It may be useful service for a lot of surfers. So let's keep that in mind. What are your thoughts?
Okay.
Do you have any ideas on style and what defines it, and what defines bad style even?
I mean, I think style needs to always be thought of in a moment, right? Like there is sort of a universal style. I think the one thing we can apply universally to style and surfing across all eras of surfing, right? From like longboards to whatever, is I think what is a smoothness. I think a smoothness of your body, right? Like not uh, not herky jerky. But then you think about that though in relation to modern aerial surfing, where you kind of need to wind up and do stuff, right? But then I suppose, I don't know, like what I'm trying to think in other things, in other arts, like ballet, for example, right? Like what makes great style in ballet? And I think it changes with different ballerinas. Like there's explosive ones and
Yeah.
there's smooth ones, right? But I think there is I mean, style is one of those things it's almost impossible to pin down, but
I
everyone
know.
knows it when they see it. Like,
It's the definition of pornography.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
That the legal system in the U.S.
I know it when I
defined
see
it.
it.
I'll
Yeah,
know it when I see it, you know?
yeah.
So I thought long and hard about Ronnie's question as well and did not land on an ultimate
No,
conclusion. But I think it is the gist of that debate between Griffin and Italo. However, I think Italo won no matter what. Like there are, I see that conversation continuing into this week and people kind of throwing Ethan Ewing under the bus.
yeah.
And I'm looking at Ethan surfing going, no, he's as explosive, as progressive. He just also has style. It's like people who don't understand enough about surfing see that he's so stylish and maybe are undervaluing the incredible surfing that he's doing.
Did you see was it sent to you as well? Somebody sent me a clip of all the nines from, I think it was last year's El Salvador event.
No, I didn't get that.
Okay, so it's all the nines from last year's El Salvador event. And I forgot what phenomenal surfing went on during that event. Like,
Yeah.
Philippe was doing airs, like insane airs. I think Yago did some. Like the amount of air progression that was happening there. Like, Philippe came on one and did I think alley-oop, and then hit back around and did a air reverse, right? So he's spinning opposite directions, like one to the other, and things like that, right? That was like wildly progressive. And then I think it was Ethan Ewing, it might have been Griff, had to score a 9 also for just doing turns. And it kind of felt, I don't know, that like, what do you need? Are you trying to get them yoga mat? Uh-oh, sorry. Hold on,
right.
pause real quick.
Yeah, go for it. I'll make a note. 22 minutes.
22 minutes, yoga mat, gotten.
All right.
But okay, we good?
We're good.
Okay, in that clip though, like beautiful rail surfing, it was beautiful rail surfing, whether it was Griff or Ethan, delightful. It was no even the same world as what Philippe was doing aerial wise. Like it wasn't even close score wise, right? So I think this is where the debate I think is going wrong, or this is something we can say, or I feel I can say definitively, is when things are that explosive and progressive and difficult, when the bar is that high, then no matter style, the explosiveness wins.
Yeah.
Like, I think the style is great and style is great. But if somebody's doing wild airs, maybe you don't like that better as surfing, but in terms of scoring it, that is the degree of difficulty is crazy more, and you just can't ignore it.
The degree of difficulty needs to be weighted significantly. So,
which it's not like they weight it the same, it feels.
Well, if you follow that out, that if you made that argument all the way out to the edges, somebody super stylish just going straight on the wave, that shouldn't be scored.
Yeah.
Like that person, wow, they're trimming and they have incredible style, but they didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And so somebody who does an air with no style, they should get a higher score than the guy who went straight with style. So you have to figure out how to weight those things accordingly. And I agree with you. Style needs to be factored in. There's no question about it, but it's also subjective. It's also more subjective than degree of difficulty.
And I just don't think, I think the WSL has it wrong to be, and I would love for people to disagree here, but I think they have it wrong in terms of the judges are not scoring. And again, this is about scoring, right? Like there's one thing what I appreciate watching. There's one thing I appreciate doing. But if we're talking about scoring things, which we're saying one thing is better than another in terms of this. Wicked airs that, the person who sent me that clip was basically saying, I can turn all day long. I can't do an air reverse to save my life. I've never been able to land one, right? Like even the air reverse becomes so stock amongst the pros, right? That we think it's boring. That's how stock it is now. How many listeners are out there sticking with any kind of regularity, 90% of their air reverses? Like I surf a lot. I'm in the water a lot. Rarely do I see anybody leave the lip.
Yeah.
And so if the surf community, I think, thinks, okay, we've experimented with airs for long enough, and we don't want surfing to turn into half pipe snowboarding, right? Or we don't want it to turn into vert skating. Like, these things have become archaic. It's just a bunch of spins and a bunch of technical variation stuff that, we're just not interested in anymore. Fine. If the surfing community says no more airs. Like, surfing is about what happens on the wave. Once you leave the wave, you do whatever you want. It doesn't count to your scoreline. Then fine. But if airs are part of surfing or professional surfing, they need to be weighted a lot more than turns.
So I think that the WSL completely abandoned style for a couple of years and didn't account for it. And what they were trying to do at Surf Ranch almost seemed like they were on the path of correction. Like, by giving Griff the nod in that, they were acknowledging that he has more style, but they weren't acknowledging the moment, because in that moment, the differentiation of style wasn't that great. There wasn't that huge of a disparity between Italo's style in the pool on those waves that he surfed and Griffin's style in the pool. Griffin had a little bit more style, but I think that they get stuck factoring in Italo has a certain ratchety Tasmanian devil quality to him, and we all know that. And now we're watching him, and we're kind of imposing all of what we watched in Stab High for the last week or two on him surfing a crappy beach break. We're imposing that on him. But if you actually look at those two clips and look at what he did on that wave, it's not unstylish.
No.
His style in general is bad, but out there on that given day, on that wave, it's like he did not look that terrible. Griff probably looks a little bit more stylish, but Italo surfed more, like you said, progressively, and degree of difficulty was higher.
I mean, and I suppose this is the thing, and this is where it all lands into trouble, is surfing it was not built and nor meant to be judged, right? Like, where, I mean, it's just
that's like, it.
And so what are you going to do? It's apples and oranges, like, what is better? And we can have opinion, and it's fun to debate which is more pleasing. But again, like, I think, like in art, I mean, back to ballet, not to beat the ballet horse too much, but I can watch a ballet and there can be a dancer who flows beautifully through her movements, right? Then there can be a dancer who comes on and explodes, like has her fouettes and her leaps and all that just like so high that it's crazy, right? And both of those make the ballet. Like, right. I can have a personal taste on, I like a flowy dancer more, or I like a explosive dancer more. But both belong in ballet, where what we're asking is to say, no, one of these is better than the other.
So this is the exact, I'm glad you landed there, because this is the exact conclusion that I came to after processing all of last week's podcast and feedback. And it's a conclusion that I've been coming to for years, to be perfectly honest. And it's that surf contests are antithetical to the act of surfing itself.
Yeah.
To be perfectly
from
honest.
top to bottom. From top
to bottom. And the fact that we spend so much time focusing on the contest is really a misstep for us. Style is paramount in surfing, period. Like, in the world, when you're surfing, any break around the world, style is paramount, right? Yet, it's undefinable and it's immeasurable from a judging standpoint. And so if you did a thought experiment in that kind of non-contest world, it's completely democratic, where if you're not have judges on the beach and just look at the contest or the surf world where there's brands and there are there's some surf media, professional surfers do emerge, right? There are professional free surfers, and those are kind of dictated by who people want to watch. And then the brands go, oh, everybody's watching that surfer. We want to be associated with them. We'll pay them money. That person becomes a pro surfer. In that world of professional free surfing, never has there been a surfer who had poor style.
Uh-oh. I got one for you.
Name it.
The most popular professional surfer, arguably, on the planet right now, one Benjamin Graff.
He doesn't have that bad of style. He's just a goofball.
I know, but it's pretty wacky. I don't want to watch Ben Gravy surf.
He's kooky in a lot of ways, but I don't think he has bad style.
He doesn't have good style. Let's be honest. He doesn't have bad style, but he definitely doesn't have good style. I'm not saying he has bad style.
I don't think he has.
Do you ever watch Ben Gravy and say, sick? Do you
No.
ever feel whoa with Ben Gravy? The only times I feel whoa is, you're right. There's times that I think, oh, Ben surfs better than I thought, but that's like not a high evaluation. And again, nothing against Ben Gravy, but this is where democracy can lead us, is to Ben Gravy.
See, I think you're identifying that Ben's not a great surfer.
He's not.
Yeah. But it's not related to his style. His lack of appeal to you is not related to his style, is what I would think.
Yeah, but this is where democracy ends at the doorstep, a New Jersey doorstep of Ben Gravy.
Democracy, honestly, is kind of ruined by social media, to be honest.
I mean, that's what's
everybody
happened,
chasing
right?
the lowest hanging fruit.
Well, and for, gatekeeping and all that kind of junk that people talk about, the magazines, they were the ones who dictated and blah, 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 blah. Magazines got it wrong a lot, but they got it right a lot too, right? They pointed as, I think art criticism is essential. You have art,
Yeah, of course.
you have criticism. Both are essential to each other. For somebody says, oh, the critic is just the person who can't do and just sits and snipes. No, like the critic is the one, good criticism, not just, man on the street criticism, but the good critic who has spent a lifetime honing his or her eye to understand something and then be able to explain that is an art in and of itself, right?
Yeah.
And I feel now we have a lack of kind of, what with social media, you have a lack of good critics, I think, where you either have shitsters like me, or you have people who are just ultra positive all the time and, no wall of positive noise kind of stuff. Like what source you have Stab, which is entirely ball sucking for, Stabs just tickles balls like it's going out of style. You have the Inertia, which is utterly pointless and embarrassing. You have Surfer, which is a zombie website. I suppose you do have Beach Grit as close as we come in the surf world to proper criticism. And from the JP Currys, the Long Toms, Derek, when he gets serious, it's as, but again, yeah. So all the way back to gatekeeping, it's important, or to have critics.
The problem with the social media thing is it's the people who are not experts have just as loud of a microphone as the people who are experts. And often the people who aren't experts want to yell more loudly and frequently. So that it drowns out the ones who have valid opinions. But I'd say put Ben Gravy aside. If you look at that analogy of the world's history of free surfers, there's not a single one of them who have bad style. They all have good style. And they've become iconic definers of style, with whether it's Tom Curran, Craig Anderson, Rob Machado, David Rostovich, like Mason Ho, they're all icons of style that everybody wants to emulate. And then if you flip that and look at contest surfing, contests breed bad style.
It flattens.
It incentivizes bad style. The idea of doing, when we were growing up, the format
3
criteria, 8 turns was even better than 3. So try to get up in Huntington Beach and do 8 turns to the beach. There's no way to do that with grace and dignity. Yeah. But that's what got incentivized, and it still does to a certain degree. So Gabriel Medina somehow has defied it, where he's almost like stylistic. Like he's not bad style, he's not good style. He's just kind of like,
he's like a machine. He's a contest machine. He has hewn his ability so much to the format, which I would imagine is why he has beef, right? He is saying in his letter, tell me what you want, because I am a surf robot, right?
That's what he's saying.
I will embody your criteria better than anybody else, but you have to tell me what that is, and you have failed me by not telling me what this is. I will win every time if you tell me what it is.
Yeah.
So
this is the foible of Erik Logan, to be perfectly honest, and we've fallen into this trap a little bit, which is he knows so little about surfing that he's unaware there's no way to define the judging criteria and what style is. So Eric's response to Gabriel is saying, you're wrong. We have crystal clear rules and we are completely transparent and we will communicate those to you crystal clear. Erik, it is a futile effort to even try to judge surfing, firstly.
Yeah.
It's a futile effort to then try to put it into words how you're judging surfing because you never could have judged it in the first place. It is all entirely subjective. You are living a complete lie to think that you can give Gabriel the answer that he's asking for. We're all living under this delusion that it's objective.
And not only that, to Erik Logan and anybody else who thinks, like, you just got it wrong. You honestly told Gabriel to be progressive. He went and was progressive. And then you said, oh, we didn't really mean it. What we meant was something else, right? Like my goodness, the WSL was flatly wrong in that. I think whether or not you thought, to nitpick over the Griffin versus Idolo or, and again, the Gabe versus Ethan is more telling. It's so boring to continue to hammer day after day after day after day. But the real nut of the thing is, like, you're getting it wrong. You got it wrong. You lied to your surfers, whether you wanted to or not. And you have to go back in the room and say, how can we not let this happen? This was a major mistake. How do we not let this happen again?
So did you ever think that the Duggar family, the very controversial Duggar family, would overlap with the WSL in any way, shape, or form?
I can't wait. I've been waiting for since I've exhausted all my Vanderpump Rules avenues. Tell me how the Duggars are here.
Here you go. So for the listeners who maybe don't live in America or don't know, the Duggar family they're this Christian fundamentalist family who had a TV show on TLC called 19 and Counting 20 years ago. And I didn't really follow the storyline, but a documentary just came out about them, revealing kind of all the bad behavior, criminal behavior that was happening behind the scenes. And essentially, the sect of Christian fundamentalism that they were operating under was a cult. And within all cults, the leaders try to bang all the young chicks and keep all the money for themselves, right? So this is ultimately what was happening in the Duggar family and the church that they were under. Thankfully, it wasn't the father who was molesting the daughters, but it was the older brother in this case. And within the church community outside of that Duggar family, it was the head of the church. The head male of the church was, indicted for sexual misconduct with a ton of the young girls coming up in the church. Anyways, the part that becomes problematic beyond that and criminal beyond that is that they cover everything up and silence all of the victims, essentially. And as I was watching it, that documentary, the people being interviewed and then the Duggar girls themselves state part of the church doctrine that is based on a Bible verse. They take a Bible verse, manipulate it, create a doctrine that essentially tells them you are not allowed to criticize any of the, your superiors in this family or in this church. There is a code of conduct where you have to express your grievance basically to the authority, and you're not allowed to criticize them publicly. I'm going to go ahead and just play the clip and let them explain it to you.
Teaching, calling this biblical, basing it on Matthew 18, making it impermissible to gossip, which means making allegations against leaders in particular. This is also part of the Duggars' commitments.
Praise publicly, and if you have something negative to say, just go to that person privately.
This culture is shaped in a way that makes abuse incredibly difficult to report for women, for other members of the community. They really have no recourse.
So I'm just going to read to you Erik's own words in his press release in response to Gabriel Medina expressing his grievance about the judging at Surf Ranch. Erik said, quote, "It is not acceptable and is a breach of league policy for surfers to not choose to engage with the proper process and instead air grievances on social media. It is unacceptable for any athlete to question the integrity of our judges who, like our surfers, are elite athletes. No one person or group of people are above the integrity of our sport. Sincerely, Erik Logan."
Sincerely, cult leader Erik Logan. Yeah.
I mean, it is damning. It is a common manipulation to maintain power and authority and to not allow people who feel victimized to have a voice.
I mean, again, so a couple signs that the World Surf League is truly and properly running out of money. We talked about it last week, I think. One was the lack of porta potties at Surf Ranch, right? There was a massive lack of porta potties at Surf Ranch. Oh, speaking of, we didn't get to this either, but I need to touch on it real quick. Jen C wrote about beautiful coverage. If you have not read her coverage of Surf Ranch, it's worth going back and digging up and reading. But the World Surf League, there was a no outside food policy at Surf Ranch, right? No outside food. So if you brought food, you would have to leave it on the table and it would get thrown away.
Right.
Imagine the World Surf League in its green bona fides, right? It's this green organization saving the earth perpetually, taking perfectly good food and throwing it into a landfill where it gets hot and releases all kinds of, I mean, that kind of throwing good food away is awful for the environment. It is unnecessary and awful. The fact that they do that kind of stuff is infuriating. They should not ever be allowed to say we are a green organization and do things like that. That is like basic and simple 101, save the earth. Oh, can actually consume if you brought food, great. We're providing food here. We encourage you to eat our delicious food. We're going to serve it with bamboo utensils and blah, blah, blah. But if you brought your own food, fine. It's the fact that they made people throw it away is insane. Anyway, so lack of porta potties at Surf Ranch, sign one, that they're running out of money. The fact that letter got released means that they do not have a PR department anymore, and or they have such a lackey working in PR who's utterly clueless. Because we've been on this letter now for 14 days or however long it's been out. But it's that bad. It is that bad that it allows for multiple so that means they don't have I'm sure they have a lawyer, but they didn't get, or got passed by a cheap lawyer at first brush. The letter is bad in any way a letter can be bad. In every way a letter can be bad.
Well, I got an email or a DM right before our last show, and I forgot to read it to you because I thought it summed up a lot of it perfectly. It's from Dylan Would Go on Instagram, who's got arguably the best quiver of any listener that we have, to be honest. If you go look at his Instagram,
better even than Ron?
No, I mean, it's on par with Ron, though. I mean, it's but it's all smaller one-off hand shape stuff, like Ryan Birch's boards and all sorts of cool stuff. But anyways, Dylan Would Go said, in regard to Elo saying that the only people mad about Surf Ranch are those who can't surf it, Dylan said, again, showing what a big dumbass he is. From caddying to Kelly in Fiji like a fanboy with a medical condition getting his Make-A-Wish dream granted, while actually literally being the CEO of the WSL, he makes statements like this that shows he doesn't care about the fans he should be catering to, or he's just that out of touch on what makes long-time core surf fans of pro surfing. It really is just those two options. I can't watch the WSL anymore, and it's mostly because of this kook and what he's turned it into. The ASP was better before the adult learner from Oklahoma found surfing by accident and somehow was able to run the tour.
I mean, I hate nostalgia. I hate nostalgia.
Yeah.
But covering the tour under the Brody Carr years, ASP, it was fun. It was in fun locations with fun surfers, and there was fun. And of course, I guess there was more money back then. There must have been because, the brands, whatever, ran the contests and it was different, I suppose. But yeah, the World Surf League and Erik Logan, the World Surf League threw a string, not just through Logan, but him being the kind of ultimate example, have really destroyed professional surfing. They've taken it and thought, we're going to actually make this consumable and packageable for a broader audience. And surf fans, you're going to like it too, because while we're doing this, eventually probably the dream is hope is to throw it behind a paywall. But before we do that, you're going to get quality content for free, right? It's going to be not just the Rip Curl, whatever, where it's Rip Curl judges and Rip Curl blah, blah, and then the Quicksilver Pro, which is Quicksilver judges and Quicksilver blah, or whatever. I mean, the ASP, I guess, had their own judges, but that each brand ran each one of those stops kind of soup to nuts, and we're going to make this all legitimate. It's so much worse than the ASP. So much worse.
Yeah.
Like,
well, from a viewer
infinitely
standpoint.
worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine from any standpoint, the surfers getting paid less than they were back then. It just seems like it's bad across the board.
Well,
who's it better for?
The only argument that would be made, I wouldn't make it, but other people would make, is like the surfing is so much better now. But the argument that I would return is, imagine where it would be if they had all of the best surfers and the best waves for the last 20 years instead. We would be light years ahead of where we're at. You know?
I truly love that somebody sent me that the international windsurfing tour in pumping Cloudbreak, right? Which is pumping Cloudbreak, and from what I understood and watched a little bit, it's like the 5 best windsurfers in the world. This is their, whatever, and they get to go to Cloudbreak, and then one of them wins, which is, imagine the 10 best surfers again. I mean, we don't even need to talk about this. Don't need to talk about it anymore. But yes, the International Windsurfing Tour gets what their fans want to see and what surf fans want to see well more than the World Surf League.
And somebody sent me a bodyboarding comp this week, and they're like, look at how incredible these bodyboarders are and the positions that they're putting their bodies into and things that they're putting their bodies through that's like death defying. And it was a bodyboarder getting this insane left shack and then coming out and doing a backflip into the flats and riding out of it. And I thought, between that and the kite surfers, it was kite or wind?
Wind.
Okay,
like
wind surfers. Yeah. It pumping Cloudbreak, between those two things, surfing's now the third coolest. Like, surfing went from being the coolest thing you could do to being rollerblading, essentially. Yeah. And it got bypassed, and it's all because the kook from Oklahoma has free reign, and all that he's doing, by the way, is servicing a billionaire whose woke ideologies they're trying to pump out into the subcultures. And that's all it is, full stop. And by the way, Erik Logan could implement what we're talking about, but he would have to work to do it. He would have to work twice as hard next year as he does this year. The guy writing his paychecks doesn't care about any of that, doesn't care if the surfers are surfing at Cloudbreak at all. And so why would Erik's going to get his paycheck no matter what. So why would Erik listen to what we want, have to work extra hard, have to rejigger everything? You know what I mean? Instead, he'll just collect his paycheck, kind of show up half-assed, and all that he has to do anytime he gets blowback from us, because we're a tiny, tiny community, is just put out a press release so that his boss acknowledges that Erik deflected our complaints. That's all it is.
His silence on social media, though, on Instagram, I'm going to make a bold statement here. I think he's out the door. I think he's getting canned or is resigning.
Well, this is the first time that our blowback has made it past the wall of positive noise, I feel, because Gabriel Medina said what we've been saying for the last 4 years. So it kind of got big enough to where his poorly kind of ill-conceived press release wasn't enough to cover up the mistakes that he had been making all along.
Which I wonder too, if he's sitting there thinking, I don't need this, right? Like, yeah, I love surfing. I'm a surfer, all the stuff he's deluded himself into, feeling about like, all the surfers like me. I like the traveling. I like the tour, whatever. I like the synergies and the vectors and all of it. But if he's like, you're just getting picked on all the time, I'm going to go back to Hollywood or music or wherever, where I can go surfing all the time and tell people about my great surf, but I'm done. I'm done with it. Well,
amidst all of the judging controversy that we discussed from Surf Ranch and that we've been discussing for years, I got a note from somebody this week who was watching the ISA event, which I got a note from a lot of people watching it. They were saying it's awesome. They're like, the storylines emerging are better than what the WSL stories are.
I watched a bit of it. Let's get to the letter. But
so the letter says, "Hey, David, good morning. I believe that you probably aren't watching the ISA event, but something happened that was very interesting. A surfer got a wave and made an awesome maneuver, but the judges didn't give it the score because they considered that it was not completed, which was not correct in my eyes. It looked like the surfer completed the maneuver. But at the end of the heat, they reevaluated, and after a few moments of tension, they changed the score. In my opinion, that shows that the judges and the organization had a humble attitude. Everyone can make mistakes, but not everyone can realize that they that they did and then change the action.
Fantastic.
So
That's
it's a
great.
simple way to handle it, right?
I mean, easy. And like, I don't know, I suppose for viewer, but yeah, I've been saying this for years. I don't know why they don't treat it like boxing, where boxing, you don't get the score until the end, right? If there's no knockout. What you do have is what they think. You know, you have experts weighing in on what they think the score is. And then you have a whole nother level of intrigue and interest, you know, in boxing, corruption as well. But does the score match what we thought? But that gives the judges, and I don't know why surfing doesn't do this, it gives the judges the entire heat to go back, measure, wave to wave, move to move, kind of really get a good sense if they're not corrupt, right? If they really want to do the best they can, then you would get the right person 99 times out of 100 doing it that way. If you look at the heat in its entirety, not, you know, judging as you go, which there's no reason they can't do that. There's absolutely no reason they can't have experts weighing in, you know, what stinking Pete Mel can think what the score is, that WSL could keep it on the screen. Like Mel thought that was a 6-7, you know, Blakey thought that was a 6-9. And then at the end of the heat, it was a, you know, whatever, 7.
Right. Well, as it relates to corruption, potentially, here's a listener call about the incident.
What's up, David and Chaz? This is for the grit. I don't want to beat a dead horse here. I just went back and watched the final of the Surf Ranch Pro, and what the fuck? I mean, that was so obvious that it made me think of the NBA ref scandal. It was like 15, 20 years ago when one of the refs came out and said he was throwing games to bet against the team he was throwing the game against in Vegas so he could make the spread or make money or whatever the fuck he was doing. But I'll tell you what, for Erik Logan to come out and have any sort of ill words or any sort of negative comments for Gabrielle or anyone who was speaking up against this, there's something afoot. Something is completely fucked here. And the Titanic has always been slowly sinking. This may have been a large gash or hole into the side of the hull because this thing is done. This was an abomination. I mean, whatever. I need to call and just say they may have ended it for themselves. There's nowhere to run and there's certainly nowhere to hide. Keep up the work, gentlemen. Sorry for, speaking to a story that we've already kicked like a damn pinata. All right, guys, take it easy. Bye.
Says basically what you just said.
Yeah, I mean, and you'd want to think that, well, there's not enough money in surfing, right? There's a bunch of money in the NBA, and so that ref throwing games, is ostensibly getting paid. But surfing does have a betting partner now, and like all one of those or two of those judges just have to think, hey, I don't know, what's a point here, a point there. Yeah. Like, I mean, who's to say?
No, not me. Well, CJ Hobgood emailed us this morning and he said, I'm not sure if you cats have been following the PGA Live merger, but if the PGA can throw Tiger and Rory under the bus for money, you better believe that the WSL will sell your likeness if anything shiny comes their way. And if you don't like that, if you don't like the cringe clown show now, then I'd caution to start making plan Bs if you're not already. Almost looks like Gabe has one foot out the door already. Collectively, your socials alone can fetch you some good coin, but you guys already know this. Make it a great show. Have a good weekend. Peace, Siege.
Champion CJ Hobgood.
So, I mean, I've seen that there is that merger happening, but I'm not following, and I'm not sure what he means by throwing Tiger and Rory under the bus.
It's wild. Like, because Rory and Tiger both, particularly Rory, came out and has been fighting tooth and nail against the Live since the start, right? So he's been out there saying this is, everything, like from the golfers who jumped to this tour are basically traitors to this is, Saudi blood money, who's sports washing, all of the stuff. He's been the mouthpiece for why Live is awful. Whether or not you agree with Live or like it or anything, Rory's been out front and the PGA doing this. And he's, arguably, and Tiger too, Rory and Tiger are probably the two most famous golfers, or popular maybe, or two of the most. And PGA is like, boom, in your teeth. Like, There you go.
They were essentially defending the PGA and becoming the spokespeople for the PGA without the PGA even asking them to, just because they were on the right side. They were on the side of,
I think the PGA
ethics,
did ask them to. I think the PGA specifically said, "Hey, we've got to circle the wagons here.
Exactly.
Athletes are our biggest asset, and so you get out front, and you take this." And Rory took it, and then so to now have to join up with Liv, like it's basically making him look hypocritical, because he's been out there saying it.
Yeah, they ran him over with the bus, and so that's what CJ is obviously saying is like, it'd be wise for no surfers to go to bat for the WSL at this point, because they are clearly only in it for themselves. And by the way, the one time that Gabriel kind of called the spade, they actually tried to smash him down.
Yeah. I mean, imagine that if it was a lesser surfer, I'd imagine if somebody, say a Baron Mamiya or something, had complained, he would have got suspended and been in massive trouble.
Totally. By the way, I was having this is kind of tangential, but kind of talking about Erik Logan just trying to sell us bull crap that nobody asked for and nobody want and cram it down our throats. I was talking with my buddy this morning about the Kelly sandal.
Yeah.
And we were like, the Turtle Moon sandal, right? And I was like,
Can you just please cue up "I Like Turtles" one more time?
Yeah, of course. I got it handy for you.
I like turtles.
So we were talking about it, and I was like, sometimes it takes me weeks to get to the final, like what the point I was trying to say for like 2 hours, basically. And so as we were discussing, I'm like, the problem is we love Kelly. We grew up loving Kelly. We all love Kelly. We want to be like Kelly. And I will buy whatever Kelly wants me to buy, right? And in fact, I would rather take cues from him than any other marketing that I get on social media or wherever else marketing finds me now. The problem is when he builds the crappiest product on the market and charges double. That's the problem. And it's like, dude, I'll buy, okay, so I will buy, I didn't buy the clothing or the surfboards, but historically I'll throw some money at it occasionally. But when we're down the line now and the sandal is $80 and the sandal, by the way, like I said, I have rainbows that are $50 that are incredible that have never, and my buddy this morning has the Javianas that are $20 and they're incredible. So we could buy the Javianas and the rainbows that have never failed us and we still have $10 to spare. Or Kelly, I thought we were friends. Kelly, the only reason you are in the position of power that you are in is because of me and the millions of people exactly like me who put you on a pedestal and worshiped you. And for you to turn around and give us the crappiest version of a product, charge us out of control prices ask us to continue to further you to live on this pedestal is really bothersome. And the most offensive part about it, I could look the other way. The most offensive part about it is when you start talking about turtles and the moon and then try to convince me that has some meaning, even if it had meaning, that it has anything to do with a sandal. And that is what justifies the $80 price. Now I'm insulted. Now I am completely insulted because I'm not an idiot. And you and Erik Logan are making me, as the core surf fan who loves the thing, you're making me feel like an idiot. You're getting dog poop, putting it on a spoon, putting it in front of me, and I'm going, I don't want it. And you go, well, did I tell you about the moon cycles that generated this manure? And I'm like, dude, I don't care. And then you go, well, did I tell you?
I like turtles.
And I'm like, I don't care. And you go, no, this is directly connected. And then I have to open my mouth and eat it. Like, that's where we're at. That's where the surf fan is at this point.
It's really true. It is really, really, really true.
And pay me $80 for this spoonful.
I mean, it's really, really properly true. But I mean, I think this is what happens, like the self-delusion that Erik Logan clearly suffers under and that Kelly, like more and more. I mean, Kelly, come on, man. Like, you should have gotten out of the product game years ago. You're clearly not. Or if you want to invest in stuff, put your money there. But don't be the face of anything and don't have anything be your idea. The second what was the first release of the turtle, or the sandal, was that I was getting around with my design team, and we just just came up with this. Like,
this was the
instantly.
first we had a brainstorming meeting, and in fact, it was the first idea we came up with.
If Kelly, if you have an idea, table that idea. And by table it, I mean, take it and throw it away. Your ideas suck. Like, no, you're a great surfer. Your ideas are dumb.
This morning we were talking about, look at Snoop Dogg, right? Snoop Dogg's got a line of food with Taco Bell. He's got a lighter thing that he's selling with Martha Stewart. But all of it is done with it's on brand, but it's also done with a wink and a smile.
Sure.
Like, I don't think that Snoop Dogg's eating that Taco Bell meal. I don't even think he's hanging out with Martha Stewart and smoking a blunt together.
I mean, he's probably not smoking with Martha, but
he's doing it for the photo shoot. It's not like a Sunday night dinner that they're having. You know what I mean? Like, nobody within Snoop Dogg's fan base thinks that any of this is other than him just trying to make a buck. Kelly Slater, I'm fine with him making a buck. It's just, don't try to make it off me with the crappiest product. Like, that Bic lighter is probably as good as any other lighter on the market, so no big deal. Go buy the Snoop one. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Slater trying to do it for double the price of everything else on the market, present a lesser version of the rainbow sandal or whatever your favorite sandal is, and then the selling point is turtles in the moon. That's what's offensive.
And this is no Kelly hate for the fan. Sorry,
I love Kelly. I'm just mad now that he's trying to get my money all the time.
Well, I totally hear you, but we both got a DM of somebody saying, "Hey, look, I'm in the market for a jacket. I think a sports coat or something." And
oh yeah, that's right.
Outerknown makes one for $400. Lululemon, I think, made one for $400. Right? And he said, "So what do I do? Do I get the Outerknown one? I know, you guys rail on and on and on, or the Lululemon one. And Chaz, do not tell me to get a $4,000 jacket. Like, these are my options, right? This is my price range. These are my options." I said, get Outerknown all day. Like, Outerknown, I could see Outerknown being beyond Kelly making it sound like starting yet another brand. Yet another clothing company is good for the earth. That's what the earth needs, is one more clothing company, is utterly foolish. That's what makes me mad about Outerknown. Outerknown seems like it's well designed and blah, blah, blah. So I'll push Kelly's stuff that's good. And to your exact point, so little of what he does is good. Most of it is garbage. Perps was garbage. Perps was a garbage, fake energy drink that didn't work and didn't taste good. Garbage. Everything else Kelly does is pretty much garbage, except for Outerknown. Let's say it's fine, besides the messaging. And I don't like his boards personally, but somebody could maybe convince me that those are not garbage.
Well, here's the other detail is there's a little bit of smoke and mirrors going on, because if Kelly is fully invested in Outerknown and that's his baby of a clothing brand, then why wouldn't the sandals just be Outerknown?
That's really true.
Right?
Why didn't you make Outerknown sandals? It's really weird.
because he's a small investor probably in Outerknown, and he's just a figurehead he's just a figurehead for the brand. And somebody else came over here. Yes,
and Outerknown.
And somebody else came over here outside of Outerknown saying,
you can make more money here.
You can make more money over here, and your name will be on the thing. And so he went and did that. But
That's
it's like, if you fully believed in Outerknown the way that you promote it to me, whose money you are asking for, then the sandals would have been Outerknown sandals.
Does Outerknown have a sandal?
Who knows? But they could. Why wouldn't they? If you're going to introduce a sandal, why wouldn't it be part of it? You know what I mean? That's all that means, is that your heart isn't in it in the way that you've been telling me it is for the last 5 years.
Did you see Kelly's the new pivot on Kelly sandals, which I can't imagine those things are flying off the shelf, but the new pivot is it feels like you're standing on Kelly Slater's surfboard.
I sent it to you.
Yeah, you sent it.
So it's a picture of the moon and the celestial bodies behind it, as the moon exists from anybody's vantage point. And it's just a quote from Kelly himself that says, "It feels like standing on a surfboard," end quote, Kelly's signature. The new selling point, what?
With the moon. Like, what does the moon have to do with standing on a surfboard? If you're going to really somehow tie tides or something into it?
None of it has to do with anything. But the fact that you're, as if I ever said, you know what I want in a sandal? When I'm standing on a surfboard, that's the most comfy feeling for my foot. I wish I had this all day long when I'm walking around. I don't want to stand on a surfboard all day, every day.
Guess who makes that already? Astrodeck. Astrodeck makes flip-flops made from Astrodeck. Like,
Perfect. Recycled offcuts probably or something, Yeah.
I mean, and so my goodness gracious, like,
It's hilarious.
ripping off Herbie Fletcher. How dare you, Kelly Slater?
Ripping off the Ninja Turtles too. I sent you those Ninja Turtle sandals, right? Somebody sent those to me and I've just been passing that around. There were Ninja Turtle sandals that existed and I feel like Kelly should get sued for that IP.
Yep, for sure.
I like turtles.
So back to the question about how to define a kook. This one came through and I thought this was particularly salient. It says, hey, Scale, or hey, Chaz and David Lee. I'm a little late to listen to the last episode, but you talked about a lot about what skill-related quality makes you no longer a kook. But as I was listening to you guys dissect kookdom, it became clear what the quality was, and it's not actually related to skill on a surfboard. What makes you a kook is lack of awareness. For example, kooks aren't aware that they have their wetsuit on or their fins backwards. Kooks aren't aware wax goes on the top of their board. Kooks aren't aware of their ability, and they put themselves in situations that they shouldn't be in and are a danger to others. There are kooks at all levels of surfing, from beginner to pro to head of the WSL. But the difference between a kook and a non-kook is having the self-awareness to understand what you did was wrong or lame and to learn and make amends for your actions. Keep up the work, Chris.
Boom. And here we go. Here we go. This is the cleaving line between Jonah Hill and Erik Logan. Jonah Hill is aware of himself in surfing and trying to get better, right? He will do kooky moves like cutting out, the kook of the day yesterday had Jonah on the longboard. It's a great clip, right?
Explain the clip for those who don't have Instagram.
So there's a 14-year-old kid, I guess he's 14. It says he's 14, cruising down the line at Malibu, right?
On a smoker.
Yeah, on a smoker. On a good, it wasn't like a big wave. It was probably what, 2 to 3 foot?
I mean, it's waist high on that 14-year-old. It's chest high, and it's running. And it's like it's a mediocre wave for Malibu, but it's so crowded at Malibu that if you find yourself on that wave, it's a freaking gem to be on that wave.
But so then kids cruising, cameras on them, and then on the left part of the frame, in drops a surfer belly boarding. Like he missed getting to his feet, and so he's committed now, but he's just boogieing it. But
he's prone
on his board, kid, like,
but not going down the line, just straight down like it's a water slide, prone down the drop and completely going straight.
Enough though down the line where 14-year-old can't, like, if he was just going straight, maybe kid could have like gone behind him.
Yeah.
And come down, or could have like faded around him somehow. But it was just bad enough where the kid had to, stomp on the tail and wave over, and lo and behold, prone surfer Jonah Hill, right? So
prone. By the way, one other detail: Jonah, while he's prone, seems to be like trying to adjust his body weight to position the board down the line a little bit. So he's not quite laying on his board, right on top parallel. He's almost a little perpendicular off the board, like trying to lean it.
It was still like he was still gonna try to get to his feet, right?
That might be what it was.
I mean, I think he was still attempting. He knew that probably he blew the takeoff, but the wave was still running in front of him, so there was still hope, right, for him. Like,
not for me.
I don't know that he saw the kid. I don't know what, like, in terms of burning someone, et cetera, et cetera. But here's back to the point. I've had conversations with Jonah, and Jonah is...
That's a big reveal for listeners.
Yeah, it's a big reveal. Jonah Hill and I are bros now. Jonah called me up and
6 months ago.
6 months ago, got my number, called me up, and he said, look, man, you guys are going hard, and that's totally fine. But I just want you to know, you do what you want. I'm not calling you to change your opinion or your coverage of me. You guys do you. I just want you to know that I really, really, really love surfing. It really means a lot to me. And I'm doing my best. Like, I'm really trying to learn the nuance, to understand what this is, right? I've realized so much of what you said is true, right? Like, I am a kook in so many ways that I didn't know. Now I know, right? And I'm trying to, it's part of why he deleted his Instagram account, in fact. And so
he discussed it before calling you with Stutz,
yeah,
the
yeah, exactly.
documentary.
We discussed, I mean,
You and I discussed Stutz on the show.
we
Yeah.
did. And I talked with him about Stutz, and he was like, basically, look, your criticisms were valid, but it's really, I really need mental help, right? Like you writing it off is fine, but like, I'm not being dishonest. Like, it was a phenomenal conversation, I will say. And, what I realized about Jonah is not a kook, because Jonah is building self-awareness, right? He is trying. He is doing his dangdest to do surfing right, right? To like not be, the nail sticking out or whatever. Like he loves it. He loves surfing. And so I think his awareness, even if he does, we've all done kooky things. Who hasn't
Dude,
blown a takeoff, right?
I was kooking it 2 days ago pretty legitimately. And yeah, but it's a self-awareness thing. I was the first to be like, oh my God, I'm horrified.
Yeah. And I'm sure Jonah was horrified, right? And, about that clip. I'm sure he was mortified that he had done that. And of course, because it's Jonah, it goes on blast, right? And so all to say, Jonah's self-awareness was entirely endearing to me I realize this is your world. Not that it's my world, but this was the conversation. I barged into your world, made a show of myself, and now I'm pulling all that way back because I just love it. Like, it makes me happy. Surfing is a thing that makes me happy to do. And I was like, bless you, Jonah Hill. Erik Logan, on the other hand, I think just is angry when refuses to be self-aware, doesn't think that he has a self-awareness problem, thinks he is and is not. And that's what makes Logan an abject kook and Jonah not a kook.
Well, he just thinks we're mad because we can't surf ranch. You know what I mean? Like it's such a misunderstanding of what's going on.
I mean,
you're completely unaware.
Perpetually unaware.
Completely unaware. Well, Jonah, if you're listening, congratulations on the baby, by the way.
Yeah.
Just had a baby this last week, I think.
Welcome to the team, Jonah Hill.
Yeah. So somebody chimed in relation to the kook thing, identifying an intermediate surfer. And I thought this was a really solid explanation. He said, intermediate surfers maximize their length of ride while avoiding any and all obstacles at any rate of speed. They can turn when needed, float when needed, and avoid impacting other surfers while either surfing, paddling, or simply sitting in the lineup. A true intermediate surfer is delightfully forgettable.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, wow, you just defined me. And I've self-identified as an intermediate, but it's like, yeah, when I look at Archie's surfing, Matt Archibald, he's reckless, like just full speed at all opportunities, like going to go hard off the bottom, going to go hard as he can off the top. And I'm like, as much as I would love to surf like that, everything I do is measured. And he's right. Yeah. Length of ride matters. I'm like, oh, sick. Can I combo this thing up? And well, if I just lightly tap this section, then I can float that one and then maybe get a final turn off. And in the end, it's totally forgettable and totally, it's not kooky, but it's never going to be advanced. It's just the most generic, boring surfing that you're going to witness in the day.
That's funny. And it's exactly true in terms of when I paddle out and watch people surf, I either recognize them as a massive kook or I think that guy rips. That's it. I never look at somebody intermediate and think that guy is surfing serviceably. He is.
You don't even think twice.
I don't even like that dude's ride or girl's ride doesn't even enter my brain. It goes into my eyeballs and doesn't lay roots.
Right. And this jives with what Chris said about kooks. The intermediate surfer is aware.
Yeah.
They have just enough awareness to be able to turn around people, to not get in the way, to not hurt people who are getting in the way, So it's like they're no longer a kook. They're intermediate.
This new more people surfing era that we live in, the other day, I guess it was probably a couple months ago now, we haven't had swell. Man, I went surfing yesterday and just sat in the water and then eventually paddled as close as I could to the shore and Jonah Hilled one in on my belly. Like that was it. There was honestly,
That's brutal, dude.
that's how bad the surf was though. That there was like no waves. There was like two that came through that were like, yeah, those ones. And there was no waves. It's not that I was paddling and missing. It wasn't that I was out of position. I was randomly out of position for the only two waves that came in all day. But it was a brutal feeling. But anyway, a couple months ago, or whenever there was swell, I was paddling into it was like a good set wave, and was paddling in, and there was someone right in front of me, and I just, like, there was nothing I could do. I had to pull back on the wave, which I don't remember that happening.
Yeah.
Which made me think, wait, have I lost something? Like, have I lost either dexterity, or would I used to be able to get around that person? Or is like the influx so great now that there's people like paddling up while you're paddling down, and that used to not happen. Like people used to peel off one way or the other and allow you that I don't need a big window. Like I'm pretty okay at like staying in my lane and getting around someone on a drop in. But like that person, there was honestly nowhere to go.
Yeah, I've been in super crowded lineups where that just happens because there's not enough space for everybody. But I've also had it happen where what you're saying right now, where there's plenty of space. It's just the person is so clueless. They didn't know which direction to paddle when you were making your move.
Yeah. Yeah. Like they don't know paddle inside this, like this guy is, the wave is peeling that way. I'm instinctively paddle opposite the way the wave is peeling.
They're in such a new environment and they're processing so many sensory things that they didn't even realize you were paddling for the wave until it was too late for them. And they didn't know which way to go at that point. You know, like they're just way, again, unaware.
But again,
completely
like learn not to be a kook. Realize that, oh man, okay, that something happened there. I need to think about what happened there and how to fix that next time.
Well, let's take a moment to give somebody advice, because for all of our listeners, they, whether they're in therapy or not, they know where to come when they want real advice.
Trust in us. And David Scales and Chad Smith will give us advice that we can trust.
Thank you, DJ Seaweed. Trust in Us is brought to you by Sunbum. Chaz mentioned it earlier. It helps with June gloom. I am on a surf trip right now. I am slathered in Sunbum. I probably got Sunbum stained on this shirt, actually, the tinted variety.
You know what we don't talk enough about Sunbum?
What?
How nice it smells. Sunbum has a nice, completely inoffensive odor.
Completely agree. You know what else we don't talk about nearly enough? I don't know if you have this one. The mineral sunscreens.
Oh, it's the best. For especially for, where are you in Mexico? Or can you share?
No, probably not.
Is it pumping?
No, the waves are good though.
That's fun. Mineral sunscreen is I don't know how you don't do mineral sunscreen. Once I discovered it, in anywhere where you're super hot or tropical.
Well, what I was going to say is the texture.
It's nice.
The texture.
It's like clayish.
Exactly. It's clayish. I was going to say powdery, but it isn't powdery because there is a liquid quality to it, but it's not slick. It's not oily in any way. And it's light. It's like, when they introduced that light cream cheese 20 years ago, or the whipped cream cheese, it used to be cream cheese in a brick and it was hard to spread, especially if it was cold. And then they introduced this whipped one and it's just so smooth and lightweight. That's what this feels like. It's like they whipped it up in an emulsion blender.
Those tubes of the mineral one too, you don't need a lot, like a little dollop will do you.
Yeah.
And the tube fits nice and easily in luggage. Of course, if you're traveling on a surf trip, oftentimes space is at a premium. Yeah. Those mineral tubes are ultimate.
Yeah. We are huge fans of this stuff. I've got the face stick right here. So I use that as well. Also mineral. So the mineral comes in face stick. It comes in a roll-on, like lotion roll-on.
How good is the face stick now that you're a father for the child?
The best.
Yep.
It's also helpful when the kid's wet.
Yep.
It makes it easier to kind of apply. Anyways, Sunbum, thank you so much. We love you. I forget, what is our promo code with Sunbum? Do you know off the top of your head? You get 15%. Oh, Surf Splendor for 15% off.
It's worth it. Buy a lot. Buy in bulk.
Buy in bulk because they have a ton of different products, hair care products, skin care products, all that sort of stuff. We're just huge fans. Everybody needs to protect themselves, and why not use Sunbum when they're the best on the market and they support the surf industry in the way that they do. So I've got a question for you though, Chaz. I'm a little bit worried because these segments where we give advice, it's all fun and games until somebody gets hurt.
Ooh,
people trust in us,
are worried.
but it appears as though we may have led somebody astray.
I doubt it.
Is it possible that we're fallible, or that
Somebody
they just poorly implemented our advice?
They pulled a punch for sure. They were going with the advice, and then they pulled last minute. That's when you get hurt, man.
Okay, well, do you remember one of our first Trust in Us segments, our queries, I believe, came from Austin, who was asking about surfing with his increasingly kooky, aging mother.
Yes, sure do.
How could you forget, right?
It was endearing.
So, he's reported back. He says, hello, David, Lee, and Chaz. Thanks, y'all, Devin Howard, and all the other listeners who have provided sound advice about whether or not I should ghost my mom. After this past weekend, I have an update on the situation. The days before Memorial Day, we got an unusual cold front, and a lot of decently sized surf blew down from the northeast. I successfully avoided my mom and all accompanying burdens of the holiday to surf. That is, until the surf dropped to a manageable, knee-high logging wave on a sunny Sunday morning. I decided to paddle out with my girlfriend, my mom, my sister, and her boyfriend. After a solid 15 minutes of waiting, a whopping 2.5-foot set came through. My sister paddled for it and started trimming down the line. My mom attempted to frantically paddle over the shoulder, but the board got ripped from her hands and torpedoed straight into my sister's head, resulting in her 4th concussion. Since then, my sister purchased a padded surf helmet, and it's also made me seriously consider taking away all of my mom's boards and giving her a soft top. I hear that Jerry Lopez shapes a pretty sweet board for Costco. Thanks, Austin.
Oh, Austin, I am real sorry about that. But I feel I'm going to lay this one, blame at the feet where it truly and really belongs. Devin Howard. Devin stinking Howard takes the fall for this one, man. If I recall, I said more or less ghost, right? Oh, then I probably said take her out on a small day. But
you said ghost, but then so much of the other feedback from listeners and everything else kind of in through the discussion was like, cherish every moment with your mom.
Yeah, but
I don't know if you got off the ghost thing, though.
But Devin really layered on thick the cherish every moment, Devin Howard. Yeah. So Devin is not part of this advice segment. I think now I've learned my lesson not to invite him back here. Everybody, really, if Devin Howard says something, really, really, really think twice.
Do the opposite.
There's probably a concussion over the near horizon if you listen to Devin Howard. We should do a whole nother segment called Don't Trust in Devin.
You know where I think this went wrong? Because I don't think we gave bad advice.
We never have.
Never have, right? And it made me realize, I was like, Austin wasn't blaming us. He was just giving us an update. But I was like,
a concussion was laid at our doorstep.
It was laid at our doorstep. And I realized we don't give bad advice. So where did this go wrong? And there was one sentence that stuck out to me when I read that email the first time, and it stuck out again now. He said, I decided to paddle out with my girlfriend, my mom, my sister, and her boyfriend.
That's true.
Nobody advised that you do
family
a 5-person family surf day. We said, go with your mom. You can mitigate trauma with one person. You cannot account for your sister and what she's up to. Surfing with your girlfriend, first of all, that we'll put that in a barrel or not down the road. And your sister's boyfriend, I just see that as full of potential for disaster. Full of potential for disaster.
Imagine the whopping 2-foot set wave came. There's some other kid cruising down the line. Mom's board gets ripped out of the hand and whacks that kid. I don't know that kid.
Right.
You don't know that. Nobody knows that kid. Surfing is, hey man, ocean's full of hazards. So
exactly.
Like what are you going to do about it? Right.
Yeah.
The fact that it was sister, then it became personal. But who brought the sister? You brought the sister, Austin. You brought her.
Bad idea, Austin.
Devin, you're off the hook.
Yeah. Well, and I just realized too, even if you go with your friends, they're not your family. If you add more than one person, one friend, if there's a group of 3 of you, things become a little chaotic. Like one person you can split peaks with, you can kind of take turns with. More than one person becomes a disaster. Even though, or I'd say even with the one person. Yesterday I was surfing with my buddy. We were by ourselves, surfing a point break, just the two of us, nobody else in the water. We got caught in the trap of talking. And doing our rotation, I'm in priority. I'm sitting in the right position, but we get to talking. And that split second, you see the set on the horizon, but you want to finish your sentence or whatever it is. That little bit of distraction was just enough to where I'm slightly out of position for the set. Yep. And then he doesn't go because he knows I'm in position and I'm going to go, but I'm just too late and I'm a little too deep. And then I eat crap on the takeoff and I ruin it not only for me, but for him. He could have gone. And I'm like, you know what the culprit was with this entire scenario? Me freaking talking. How about we just shut up? How about we don't talk? And if there was a third person out there, somebody would have gotten run over at that point.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally hear you. Like talking in the lineup with your friends is not story time. Yesterday was fine. There was not one wave. I was talking with great friends and just jibber jabbering away. There's not a wave to be had. It's okay. If there's waves, you shut your mouth. You keep your eye on the horizon.
We could talk any time of day, anytime for the rest of our lives outside of the water. But when you're in the water, it's a limited amount of time. Just focus on the task at hand.
Especially when waves are coming.
Yeah. So, Austin, I apologize, but this was your mistake for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I apologize. I am sorry that your sister got hurt. And, you know, I am sorry that you made that decision, Austin.
I am too.
To take your sister surfing with your mom and all those extra people. I am sorry that you made a poor decision.
It's an opportunity to learn from our mistakes, though.
Yep.
You know?
Thanks, Austin.
And that's what we do with trust in us. So thank you, Austin. Keep surfing with your mom. Don't bring anybody else. And thank you, Sunbum. Buy it from your local surf shop. How's that?
Do it.
Buy it from your local surf shop. That's where you should buy it. But if you want 15%, go to sunbum.com. Promo code SurfSplendor. All right, Chaz, should we go to break for a minute or two?
Let's do it.
All right, Chaz, we're back from break.
Fantastic.
How you doing over there?
Great, but it must be, not pumping. If we're delivering a long show with you on a surf vacation.
Yeah, I scheduled this in between obligations. Already went in the water this morning and got another podcast, but not for another hour.
Oh, great.
So we could spend some time with Buell this late in the show. Buell obviously wraps barrel or not in neoprene for us nowadays. Buell wetsuit or Buell wetsuits. It's buellsurf.com. Buell is spelled Buell. And we got a promo code that saves people 25%.
Which is ridiculous. Again, every time I say it, every time I feel it. A quarter. 1/4 off.
I agree.
I would buy almost anything for 25% off, especially some of the best wetsuits on the market.
Especially when it's high quality and you feel great about it.
Yeah.
You know what I would not buy
sandal?
for 25% off is a sandal that was $80. At 25% off, I'm still not interested. But an epic wetsuit that's already really well priced, that's good enough for Dane Reynolds.
And I don't know how. I mean, good enough for Dane Reynolds. Done.
So Buell Surf, and then the promo code is Buell Grit 25. The number 25. You can find it on our website. Put that in.
Go find that promo code zone. Sometimes you get so frantic, so happy to buy. Exactly. Don't forget to put in promo code.
So barrel or nah, number 1. I don't know if you follow me on Instagram, but I've been dealing with a scourge in my household.
Oh, I haven't seen.
Okay, barrel or nah, feeding the neighborhood cats.
Oh, so nah. No barrel. Keep them cats away. It's great that those cats can go out and hunt mice and whatnot, and your neighborhood might be vermin free because of them. But if you feed them, A, you take away their incentive to go hunt their mices and whatnots.
Good point.
And B, you bring more in. And so now all of a sudden you have a cat scourge.
Okay. I'm going to ask you for advice, but I'm going to detail my experience while you think of the advice to give me.
Okay.
The advice I need is how to dissuade my wife from doing this. And here's how this whole thing developed in my life. She loves animals. I get it. I don't want to take that away from her, but she knows that I would not encourage the feeding of the animals because or the feeding of random cats in the neighborhood. They might be feral cats even. I don't know if these cats have homes or not, but any expert on the internet will tell you not to do this because it'll only literally breed more cats, right? And those cats don't have homes. And so unless you're going to go get those cats neutered or whatever, which is already a bridge too far, don't do it. Don't do it, right? Every expert on the internet, including animal loving experts, it's good for the cats to not do this. Anyways, so one day I'm leaving the house and I glance over in the bushes under this, under the kitchen sink window. And I noticed one of our bowls in the bushes. I'm like, that's weird. And it has some food remnant in it, but I'm just going to make a mental note of this. I'm not really going to address it. I don't know. A week goes by. I go to feed the dog and I open up where the dog food is and there's cat food in there. I'm like, that's weird, right?
Cat food?
Yeah. Then it all comes to light. I think I did address it at that point. And Lauren's like, oh yeah, I'm feeding the neighborhood cats or whatever. Like there's this black one. It's really cute, blah, blah, blah. Well, then I see in the hedge a full cat house. She went and bought a proper cat house, put blankets in it, and now that's living in our hedge. And then I ask why. Well, turns out one of the cats is pregnant, and she wants the mommy cat to be able to have a safe place to give birth to her babies. And I'm like, wow, this is all very sweet, but how do you think that cat got pregnant? Well, then I get a notification from our doorbell camera, and I push play on the video. And there's midday, 2 cats tussling into frame, rolling like a cartoon where people are in a fight and they like roll in a ball and there's a cloud of, dust following them. 2 cats roll into the frame, into our front yard, onto the sidewalk and into the street. Then Lauren comes chasing after them and tries to stick her hands in to break up the fight. And
That's deadly.
I'm like, first of all, if the internet already said definitely don't feed the cats, it's also in bold print, never try to break up a cat fight.
Ever. Yeah.
Ever, right? You are going to get scratched and you're in there. It's so, and then they break up and they run off into the cul-de-sac and then she's chasing them into the cul-de-sac. I'm like, what are you going to do at that point? Reprimand them, So then I see what I thought was a cat walking to eat the food one morning through the window. Freaking possum's eating it. And then a couple days go by. Our dog gets skunked at 10:30 at night. So I think the skunk's eating the food. Our dog went to go check it out. Boom. So now we're giving our dog a bath at 10:30 at night when we were ready to go to bed because she smells like skunk and she stunk up the house. Then another week goes by. And I know you're saying, David, freaking put your foot down, right? So that's why we're having this conversation. But
yeah.
Another week goes by. So now we're at last week. I'm going to the grocery store. I'm like, hey, do you need anything from the store? She goes, yeah, cat food. I'm like, okay. It was one thing when you're doing this all on your own, but now I'm obligated to service what I never agreed for this family to do. But I oblige. Go buy the cat food. It's $40. Which I'm just like, you've been spending $40 probably every week, probably twice a week. Like, I don't know. Now I'm spending my $40 to feed these cats that are they have a cat fight club going over who has first access to the food line. And they're breeding and they're bringing vermin and skunks into our yard, which is now spraying our dog. Like, this has gotten so out of control. I don't know how to rein it in at this point.
So an easy way to deal with bad behavior in dogs particularly, but cats too, is you give them a little spray with the hose, right? Just when they're, being bad. It's not, I don't think PETA would think that was okay. I would imagine
it's
just
humane.
Water squirt. I think maybe it's time to squirt Lauren with a hose when she's out there feeding the cats. Just be standing there gardening and just give her a zap of the hose.
You know what?
I think that's the only way out of here. You
know that I've seen that trick on Instagram where like you have the spray nozzle at your kitchen sink and then the husband like wipes or wraps tape around it so that it's activated. And once she flips the handle on, it sprays her automatically in the chest. I need to set up a situation like that out in the front yard where the cat food bowl is, maybe with the hose, where it's just activated automatically. And as soon as she makes an appearance, boom, she gets
It gets her.
It's like Pavlovian dogs that get the bell with the activity. She's going
Precisely.
to learn through the spray. I should
Bad
not be out
behavior.
here doing this.
This is a bad behavior. This is a behavior that's getting corrected. Exactly. She'll know it just back of her mind. You don't have to say anything to her. Just a little spray.
So no verbal conversation at all?
I mean, it seems like it's really gone way too far, that it's taken on a life of its own. Otherwise, I think, I mean, there's more drastic things you could do. You could, like, Vlad the Impaler and just go out and, like, sneakily, get rid of the food, kill the cats, whatever, like, or leave a dead cat carcass on the yard.
And blame a coyote or something.
Yeah, and just say, look, this is dangerous now. We got coyotes, they're like killing cats, whatnot. Yeah. Or, I mean, how much is too much for her, do you think? Do you think that you could say, okay, two can play at this game, double down, bring so many cats into the neighborhood that, like, put food dishes everywhere, just have all manner of animal, but will she like that? Will she think, oh, we live in a zoo now?
Yeah, she will like that, actually. That's going to backfire. So I had two strategies. Rather than thinking about what her kind of limit is, I thought about what my limit is.
Yeah.
And I thought, there's no way we bring a cat into the house. And the good news is I don't have to set that limit, because that would become confrontational, because she would want to bring the cat into the house. But our dog will evaporate that cat.
Yeah. Great.
So I know that she loves our dog more than she loves those cats. And if those cats enter the house, they're dead. She would never do that to the cats. Therefore, there's a common kind of boundary there, or a natural boundary. So then I thought, well, okay, if I can't win this battle, I can at least leverage it for comedy on the podcast and on social media. So that's why I published the footage of her tussling with the cats on the Ring cam. And now we're having this discussion here, because it's like, first of all, I need to vent, because I really feel like I lost the battle for sure. I lost this battle. I need to just vent and make comedy.
I mean, you are hunkered down in the inside of your home, which is great, but outside you have lost all the territory outside, is what I'm hearing you say.
Totally.
Yeah. I'm thinking the hose is the only thing to do at this point, or a water squirt.
Which, again, even if I don't win the war, I get a little bit more comedy out of it. If I position the camera correctly to catch her getting sprayed in the face, boom, perfect. That's social media gold right there.
I mean, a classic of the genre.
It really is. It's right there with the squirting flower,
Yep, exactly.
All right, cool. I like it. Great advice once again.
You're welcome.
I'll be implementing that this week. Stay tuned on social media. Here I am in Mexico, walking down the beach, see a couple of bare-chested women. Barrel or nah, sunbathing nude.
Are we talking about topless or nude?
I'm talking about us as males enter a nude beach. Everybody around is nude. Do we drop trow and sunbathe nude or not?
I'm going to say it is no barrel. This one comes from I think a principle of first mention place, in terms of, if you have been an exhibitionist through your life, if you enjoy being naked as a man, that's your thing, and you are comfortable dropping trow at a nudist beach, then you do you, I will say. For me, again, this is back to both self-awareness and awkwardness and things. If I got naked in a public place, I would be looking around thinking, okay, so I have experience here, David Lee Scales. There's a retreat center. I don't know how to describe it really, called Esalen.
Oh, yeah.
Up in Big Sur. Hunter Thompson worked there for a while, etc. Never taken any classes at Esalen. Forbid. But the wife did once, and so I was there, and they have a bathhouse that's a nudist kind of thing. And I suppose this extends to saunas too, to naked saunas, right? For a sauna bathhouse thing, that is what you're supposed to do, right? That there are standards long enshrined in Swedish law that you got to take your clothes off in there. There's ways to do it better than others, right? There's ways to position your towel. There's ways to do this or that. But if that's for a bathhouse sauna-y thing, if that is, this is the code there, you can't break it. You being a wimp and walking in with your trunks on just because you're, I'm embarrassed. That's a bad look. But outdoors, on the nudist beach or whatnot. There's no such code as that. That nudism is I feel, relatively new thing. I'm going to say, I'm sure there was a nudist in the 20s or whatever, but all of this is junk historically. And so
Interesting. I haven't thought about it.
Keep your shorts on, right? I guess that's what I'm going to base it on. If there is a lengthy historical precedent for nudity in a certain place, i.e. sauna, abide by the historical precedent. If this is all fairly new, if like the nudist movement, I'm sure we could Google, and I bet it traces back somewhere not that far ago, right?
I think it might be cyclical.
But
probably
I'm sure there
if
was
you go
a
back,
nudist movement.
but if you go back far enough, it was probably common for a period.
I bet it wasn't. I mean, maybe cave people, sure, but I don't know that the Victorians, for example. I mean, and I'm going to talk about specifically. We're not talking about like Polynesian culture or something here. We're talking specific Western, right?
Yeah, we have to. You have to make a cultural distinction for sure.
Yeah, I'm talking specifically Western folk. If you're a Western man, the nude beach has no historical precedent. Keep your trousers on.
So, where I'm at, there weren't the beach was sparse. There's not a lot of people. And I don't think any males, let's say, nude. But I like the idea of living a bit more freely. Like
you yourself.
Yeah.
I like the idea of other people living more freely.
Yeah.
Except for men.
Yeah, and I guess like if my question I wasn't confronted with this today, but if it were a crowded beach and all the men and all the women were naked, I would feel awkward if I was the only one wearing trunks.
Here's the thing, though, is in these situations, again, because there is no historical precedence, I've been to nudist beaches. I've never been to one, or clothing optional beaches, I'll say. I've never been to one where there was more than 50% of the people who optioned for no clothing.
True.
Right?
True.
So
you could easily just fit in with those who are wearing clothing.
Of course.
Yeah.
Like it's never, the ratio is never even tilting toward the clothing less people.
So, but don't you prefer, like, I guess the question that I had in my mind was, I wish I was that person.
Who is just free?
Yeah. Like there's a certain freedom that person lives with that is like void of ego or whatever else, that is just, more free and comfortable. And I wish I was that person. And so can I masquerade as that person today on the beach?
You don't want to be that person. You want to have like a code that like makes you feel bad a lot. You want to have these kinds of things keeping you on the straight and narrow. That person is also probably buying Kelly's stupid sandal. That person is making all kinds of bad decisions because there's nothing reining it in, man. There's no like feeling of self-shame or like a deep sense of inner doubt that's haunting them. So they're just being dumb all over the place.
The other logistical thing I didn't think about was think about having to apply Sunbum all
on
over your privates. Because you don't want to sunburn on your privates at all, definitely obviously. Not. And they're the most sensitive and delicate, like they will get burned quickly. So you have to apply Sunbum. You're lotioning your wiener in front of everybody. I mean, think about that. That's weird.
That's something that Erik Logan would do. That's all I'm going to say.
You want me to play that Duggars clip again?
Yes.
All right. Moving on then. Final barrel or nah. This has been a scourge on or maybe not, for WSL top-level surfers. We talked about gold chains recently. What about earrings on men?
This one, so it's one of those things. I'm going to say this. I'm going to firmly plant a flag here. I'm going to say no barrel. And the reason why it is a no barrel, anything that comes in and out of fashion means that it's not stable, right? That it's not like wristwatches on men. Sure, I'm sure sometimes they sell more than others, but a wristwatch has been a staple of, male particularly, I would imagine, fashion forever, or since wristwatches were invented. earrings come in and out, right? There's like that time in the 80s when everybody was going down to get their ear pierced in the mall. Their one ear pierced, trying to make sure that they got the non-gay one pierced or whatever. And then that totally faded out of fashion. And then it came back in and it faded out. And now it's back in, I feel. Anything that is going like that means you're catching it on a trend. You're not, when you do it, you're catching it as a trend. So you're doing something trendy, and doing something trendy is not barrel.
Right. Yeah, I'm anti-barrel for sure, and probably for that exact same reason without even thinking about it. But I'm also anti the fact that it's become so ubiquitous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you're talking about as well. It's like when I was young, and I don't know who had it when I was young, probably a couple of rock stars, Axl Rose or something. I was like, it stood for something.
Yeah.
You know what I
Rebellion.
mean? Yeah, it's like it stood for rebellion, and now it's just so ubiquitous that it stands for nothing at all. And I guess maybe it's just one more adornment that you wear to accessorize your look or something. But it's like, it's pointless at this point to me. So there's no barrel either way.
And I would say maybe in future generations, maybe Austin's children, Austin's sons can wear an earring and no longer that's like what people do kind of thing, right? Like people pierce their ears. And so you're right. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't stand for anything. It just is a choice. But to me, then that's neither barrel nor not, right?
Yeah.
If it's just a thing
Exactly.
people do, neither barrel nor not.
Yeah.
Riding a trend or doing something, because I still think it's trendy. I still think people are making a statement. Men are making a statement with their earring. They're thinking, the fact that Sam George for many years rocked a single earring that's kind of all you need to know is, yeah.
Well, he did it when it was off trend, so maybe that made it cool.
I know. I mean, he did it. He started when it was first trend, I think, but like on the real backside of first trend.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, for an adult male, anyway, I think he did it first when he was an adult male. An adult male piercing their ear is a no barrel. Like, if you got your earring when you're 16 and you're still rocking it now, I'll say, like, you're letting your 16-year-old trend self set your style tone today, which is no barrel also, but whatever, right? Still no barrel. But to get it to, as an adult man, a 35-year-old, a 40-year-old going in to the earring place, I know, picking your earring, I'd like that one. Sitting in the chair, whether it's with the gun or the needle, getting your ear pierced. Yeah, I'll say the only way that I'll barrel earring on men is if your fourth grade friend pierced your ear with a bobby pin and a ice in your living room, then I'll give you a barrel for that one. I'll let your fourth grade trend self
example you just gave of being a 35-year-old male and making all those decisions and going through that effort is so radically foreign to me. Like, I cannot imagine having the interest, the time, or even the space in my life to be like, hey, honey, I'm going to the mall today. And she's like, what for? Oh, to get my ear pierced, and then going through the process of picking out an earring and then coming home with it. And then everybody that you encounter for the next week or two that you normally see in your life are like, hey,
noticing your ear.
Yeah, what's going on there? Like, for me and the lifestyle I live and my identity and all that, it's just nothing could be further from normal for me.
This
so bizarre and out of
character. This is a great opportunity, though, I will say, for us to pick a cause and have people donate to that cause. And if donations reach a certain amount, you and I will both go get our ear pierced, and rock it because the great thing is it closes up if you take it out, right? But we will go around for a month without mentioning it and with our newly pierced ear. If a cause gets X amount of money.
If I did that, I would have to change my entire look.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what makes it a good...
Once I have the earring, I can't wear the earring with the way that I currently dress. I would have to go to Idolo's Instagram and find out what he's wearing, what kind of shoes he has, and accessorize to look exactly like him. And then the earring would fit on me. Probably not, still not as well as it fits on him. But
How much would somebody have to give a cause near and dear your heart for you to go get your ear pierced?
if Lauren stopped feeding the cats, I would do it tomorrow, dude.
Really? Ooh, that's a good one. Let's see. I'm gonna hit Lauren up on this one.
It'd be like, Lauren, David will get an earring. The problem is she won't want me to get the earring either. So. But yeah, it's no amount of money that would trump all of it.
So okay.
Yeah.
Lauren?
Yeah. That's where we're at. Okay. Well, anyways, that sums up Beryl and I. I think we're both going no on earrings for men.
I think that was 3 no barrels. Just as flat as it is in Southern California.
There you go. Sometimes that happens. So thank you, BuellSurf.com. And again, promo code is BuellGrit25. So whether it's winter, summer, spring, autumn, they've got wetsuits for every season, single millimeter dimensions as well. Just a straight up 2 mil, straight up 3 mil. Nothing better than that. So thank you, Buell. Yeah. All right, Chaz. Well, hey, great show. El Salvador starts. Did you get your survival pick in?
I did. I picked Yago.
I mean, Yago's such a good pick at almost anywhere, and he's overlooked, I feel. So
I mean, that's that. I was thinking. I almost fell into the trap because I'm still in the OG league. I almost fell into the trap of planning ahead, and then I thought, what am I doing? I was almost thinking I'm going to pull Yago for Brazil. Then I thought, absolutely not. That's how you get kicked out of the OG league altogether. So Yago is my pick for El Salvador. Who's your pick?
I'm in the loser league, and I had Griffin Colapinto pinned for this event from the beginning of the season, and I did pick him. I'm sticking with it, but I'm starting to second guess it because of just all the controversy and all the stuff that's been happening.
Can you still change, or is it locked?
I can change, I think.
Another thing that I think you need to take into consideration, which I took into consideration, there is going to be like a definite favor toward the Brazilians this contest because of the blowback. So listeners who have picked Ethan Ewing, Griffin Colapinto, any of kind of the stylish dudes, abandon ship. There's going to be an overcorrection in the scoring, and the waves in El Salvador also favor and aerial surfing. So I think they're going to be it's going to be dumb how overcorrected this is going to be from Surf Ranch. I bet there's going to be air reverses getting 9s and the best turn you've ever seen in your life getting a 4.5.
Okay. Well, I won't really be watching, so I would like to say we'll see if that's true, but I don't know.
I saw today it went live, or it didn't go live. They called it off, right?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah,
no, it starts tomorrow. I think it starts on the 9th.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
I woke up relatively early and saw that it seemed like the time was going to be real bad. Like I was going to have to wake up extra early to get it live. I didn't remember that last year. But
I mean, it's ahead, I think, an hour or two from Pacific Standard Time. It's on like Central or Mountain, but it starts on the 9th for sure.
Okay, great.
You know that much. All right. Well, hey, we'll be back next week to potentially discuss that and see whether or not Erik Logan has in fact returned to Instagram or has in fact left the building.
I'm claiming he's done. Maybe not before Salvador, but he is out the door.
Okay. Well, we'll see. And until then, everybody ride waxless surfboards. Go waxless, go leashless, and enjoy.
Bon voyage.
All right. Thank you, sir.